Hello. Hi. How are you? Good to be with you all. I was told to talk nonsense for 10 seconds. It's now 13 seconds. That is a way of giving all of you receiving translation around the world the ability to receive translation around the world. Ergo, apparently, receiving translation only requires 10 seconds of nonsense. You're welcome. I think I've solved the world problem, kids. The world's problems. Wouldn't it be cool if there were only one problem in the world? That would be so cool. So nice to be with you. Welcome to Busting Out of the Prison, the Prismatic prison of personalities, such. Now, some of you have been connected with Access and done some of the Access classes or heard about it. Maybe you saw my last tour of consciousness on YouTube where I talked about this thing called personalities. And it's so funny because it's such a common word. It's such a simple word. And hi, everybody. Nice to see you. Thank you for your comments. Keep commenting. Let the world know what's happening. Tell your friends, harass them. And so we've been having this, one of the things we do in Access all the time is we're continuously exploring what would it be for a person to truly be them with ease and enjoy their lives, and then what's getting in the way, and then how do we change it? And our latest iteration, one of them, is this thing called personalities. And thanks for the comment on the hairstyle. I am a wave like the ocean. I had a wonderful person cut my hair, and cutting my hair is not easy. Let's just put it that way. So one of the latest iterations is this thing called personalities. And thank you. What a beautiful comment. You've empowered me with so much over the last 24 years. Thank you for being in the world. Ooh, you know what? Let's take a moment. Would you receive a little gratitude from me, but also from everyone in your life that truly cares about you, and the being that is our home that we are so fortunate to live on, and all the people in your life, even if they may not be able to communicate how much they care. And what if we could take a moment to perceive the gratitude that we have for all of these things and people and each other, and also receive the gratitude. And here's an interesting thing, right? I am going to, but I was sort of on the track of talking to you about personalities and their effect. And, my thing is sort of like jump in. Ooh, I'm getting closer, jump in and let's create some change. Let's create as much change as possible, as quickly as possible. And as I started acknowledging that gratitude, I'm like, wow, if nothing else changed in your life except you had more gratitude. Wow, that makes me want to cry for you, for your sweet body, for us, for all the weirdos like you, like me, that are desiring to have a world that includes everyone. What else would be possible if you just think about it for a moment right now? What else would change in your life? And thank you for the gratitude. It works and it's gratefully received. And it's so interesting because our life is our choice. And wow, it's like just that one choice is so freeing, so beautiful. And I talk a lot in the classes I facilitate. I don't get to do it so much. Well, I still will, but not as much in a forum like this because, I don't quite have the time to expand upon what I mean by, and I'm Italian. Hey, I'm in Europe. I'm actually in Berlin right now. We just finished a Being You Changing the World class that if you perceive stuff rippling this weekend, that may have been one of the stuff. And my friend Simone Milicis was facilitating an advanced body class in Mexico. So you may have perceived that too, or any of the other hundreds of access classes that went on this weekend. So that's why I'm Italian. Talking with my head. Hey, K-Cuts away. But look at that for a moment, that choice for gratitude, it's so simple, and we're taught to continuously look away from it, and only to have gratitude under perfect conditions. Wow. So everything that is, everything that is. And I'm going to talk about a few things that is, and give you a couple things, real specific things to change in your life. But everything that is, will you destroy and uncreate it all, please? Times a godzillion, right? Wrong, good, bad, all nine, pod, poc, shorts, boys, poveds, ambiance. Ah, thank you. So much gratitude. I love it. Yes, Italian, from a person whose last name is Giacometti. Oh, yeah, that's Italian. I'm going to add that to my list of names. I've been collecting a very long list of names for my next lifetime. Mostly when I'm on Zoom, facilitating a class, and there's these people with the most amazing names around the world. And I've collected about 479 of them so far. So I'm going to require, in my next lifetime, part of my thing is going to be they have to address me with all those names before I will respond to them. Yeah, everything that brought up. Pock and pot. That was funny in my mind. I don't. Do you ever have something that's really funny in your mind, and then you say it out loud, and you're like, it was funnier in my mind. I do that a lot, by the way. So this choice for gratitude, wow. Now, let me show you how this personality thing applies. The first thing we're going to address is personalities. And I'm going to try to give you some backstory. I'm going to try to give you a couple real simple things to do to get free. And then we're going to hopefully get to something called prismatic prisons, which you'll see when we get there. If we get there, I'm sure we're going to get there. At least I'll make a sentence about it. And then I'll also invite you to a deep dive coming up on all of this if you desire it. And whether you choose to go in the deep dive with another bunch of weirdos or not, I wanted you to have this so you can have it in your life and start changing this shit. This is one of the biggest, most directly changing things that we have gotten to and access. And I'm so excited. So let's talk about the gratitude thing for a moment. And let me talk to you about personality simultaneously. And you'll start to see how this works. So a personality is something that you invented to pretend that you were normal, to pretend that you understood this reality when you actually don't. Like, and by this reality, I mean, it's a reality based on judgment, and most of us don't even recognize it, to basically be on autopilot of programming rather than present as the being that you are. And we've talked forever in Access from the very beginning that you are an infinite being. And you hear that and you're like, okay, what do I do with that? Well, the only thing you really need to get out of it is if something is not light, it's not your being, it's something else. It might be somebody else's point of view. We have this tool called Who Does This Belong To? Like a lot of you know. It might be personalities. It might be all kinds of other things, but the recognition is what's true for you always makes you lighter. And when you're choosing to be what's true for you, it always makes you lighter. And I'd like to use that example of gratitude for a moment, okay? Of that choice for that. And a lot of you were like, oh, and you notice we just did it. It wasn't like, oh, let me work myself up to it. Let me spin 200 times this way and that way in a full moon. And no, it's just like, oh, I'm going to acknowledge gratitude. Okay. I'm going to acknowledge, and it just opens up your space. And there's so much lightness. And this is where the beauty comes in. And so that's, and I've tried forever to get people to somehow get a sense that they could, quote unquote, understand of what's true for you makes you lighter. Well, that is a wonderful example of it. So when something is not that, it means you have a choice to change it so it can be that and more, or the flavor of that. When I say that, I mean the space that occurred when we asked for the gratitude. Okay, so that's awareness number one, ground rule number one. If it's not light, it's not your being. There's something that can be done to change it so that you can get to lightness again. So, and using that gratitude is a great example. Now, if you look at that, how often do you have the sense of the freedom to choose to be and choose into a space like that? And how often does it feel like you're running all the time up here on the surface, never getting to sink into and be a space that's just, as the English would say, darling, lovely, a lovely space. And that is the space of your being. So everything that doesn't allow you to perceive that, to know that, to receive that, and actually get to enjoy whatever it is that is truly you. Fitting after a Being You Changing the World class, don't you think? Everything that doesn't allow that, we destroy and uncreate it all, please. Times a gazillion, right, wrong, good, bad, all nine, pod, poc, shorts, boys, povats, and beyonds. Okay, so let's dive in a little further to personalities. So for anything that is not light, you can ask a very simple question: personality or being? Let me give you nearly got the English out. I wasn't even working, darling. Thank you. It's a very nice acknowledgement. Thank you very much. So you want to ask the question, personality or being? Now, I could ask you how many things brought up an angst for you, because angst is one of the big personalities. You know, as the pandemic was continuing and there was so much angst in the world, or now you look at the financial stuff and stock markets and there's this angst all around. Well, guess what? Angst is personality. Angst is never your being. One more time. Angst is personality. Angst is never your being. Everything that is times a gazillion. I know that sounds like an overwhelming statement, a blanket statement. It's because it is. It's a total blanket statement that's actually accurate. Everything that is times a gazillion. All the personalities creating the angst. And when you go into the angst, it's so intense that you have to pay attention to it. It distracts you from being present. It distracts you from being grateful. It distracts you from knowing something else is possible. And then you're just stuck in it. And what you do is you activate more personalities to try to figure out how to get out of this thing that is so uncomfortable, that is actually personalities, rather than now. Okay, and if this is your first time or 10th time hearing it and you haven't actually been using it, or if you have, whatever, let this be an invitation to something totally different. When you go into any angst, any yuck, stuck, or what the fuck, personality or being, everything that is, times a gazillion, right, wrong, good, bad, all nine, pod, poc, shorts, boys, poveds, and beyonds. Now, truthfully, I could end the live right here with that one tool, because if you use that, and it's not going to seem like it works all the time, okay? So give yourself a break. Oh, by the way, I have an example. So you try something, quote unquote, or do it. You have angst. Let's say, you're in a situation with somebody you care about and it's weird, you have angst, or financial stuff, or you perceive it in the world, angst, and you go personality or being, and you get, personality. And you go, okay, and all you have to do is, if it's personality, you go, everything that is, destroy and uncreate it, and then run the clearing statement. And if you don't know those weird words I've been saying, right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, poveds, and beyonds, you don't even have to say all those weird words. You just go, pock and pot that shit. You don't even have to say shit. Maybe, you're more proper in your speech than I am, darling. Pock and pot all that. There you go. Yeah, you're welcome. Hey, does anybody notice your space is changing? Like, when I say changing, I mean like you have more since we've been on. You know what? That's the gift that any of us can be, for any and all of us. See, because I'll be something that is just like acknowledging of you, and however many thousands of you there are, or hundreds or whatever it is, millions, doesn't matter the number. But in that, what I do is, it's like I'm being with you. We're being together, kids. That's fucking awesome. And what happens is, in the presence of somebody being with no judgment, and also acknowledging your being, which is not cognitive, it just is, which is what a lot of you do. And unfortunately, you've been made wrong for it. What happens is people get to be. Dude, a lot of you would like to change the world. Hence, a lot of you have probably read the book, Being You Change in the World, that I wrote. And that's how it happens. Be you. Hello. You're beautiful and phenomenal and amazing, whether you want to know it right now or not, because you feel like the shit is real. I totally get it. Hello. I see you. And people get to be more of what they already are. How many personalities do you have creating you continuously searching for what else you need to, quote unquote, be? Continuously searching for what you need to be that's actually not being, that's actually personalities that your personalities want you to institute so they can keep you from being. So you're on a continuous search for being rather than recognizing you can do something as simple as choosing gratitude. How much of that is personalities? Everything that is, times a godzillion, we destroy and uncreate it all, please. We're right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, povads, and beyonds. Wow. Just for a moment, can you fathom a universe that you get to be beyond personalities? Beyond the need to prove that you're judging, beyond the need to separate, beyond the need to hate, beyond the need to fight, beyond the need to be right, beyond the need to prove you're wrong, beyond the need to go into angst. Could you imagine if you never had to go into angst again? Everything that is, times a godzillion, we destroy and create it all, please. Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, povads, and beyonds. By the way, just looking at the comments, sorry there's no Polish translation today. What I would love is we have more Polish people so we know, like, hey, this is a thing that we want to have our translators to do, so just keep going. My sense is we'll probably have it because Poland is growing, which probably means that Little Warsaw in Chicago is growing. I'll tell you a story about Little Warsaw some other time. I don't want to take the time on the live today, but let's just say we went to a all-you-can-eat buffet in it was called Little Warsaw in oh my goodness, in the Little Warsaw district of Chicago. It was awesome. They had this little sign that said, "Any food left on plate will be charged." And I do realize that's a terrible Polish accent, and Polish people probably aren't even watching, so they can't judge me for it. So there you go. And the food was so bad, though. I was like, hey, let's do this. Because I had like half a plate of food before I saw the sign. I was like, oh, no. So I was going to just scoop the food off onto the table because food is no longer on plate, no charge. Okay, sorry. Everything that brought up, Puck and Pod, all of your personalities that don't allow you to laugh at everything I say. Oh my God, there was pickle soup there. It tastes like a warm, wet pickle. It was amazing. Okay, I love it. We're watching and judging. Yay, Polska! Woo! So good. Oh my goodness. It's so interesting because this joy that's possible in the presence of everything comes from our being. And we have so many personalities to make sure that we're never happy. So how many personalities, when you're not being happy, ask this, personality or being? And how many personalities do you have that tell you that 10% of your actual happiness level is actually you being happy? Everything that is times a godzillion. We destroy and uncreate it all, please. Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, povads, and beyonds. So I have a question. When was the last time you were truly happy? What? I love it. Somebody said you're so different again. Yeah, I have been using this tool dynamically. And then when we get to the prismatic prisms, ooh, baby, there's another element of it. So when was the last time you were truly happy? I asked a person this. It was a lady that works with us. Her name is Sylvia. She's awesome. But this was, I don't know, 20 years ago or something, long before she worked with Access. This is one of her first Access classes. And I pulled her up on the table. We're doing a session. I said, when was the last time you were truly happy? And she was like, oh my God. And she looked back over her life and she went 3 years old. And I was like, wow, because she's one of those people that most people would be like, wow, she's happier than most, you know? And yet it was 3 years old that she was actually, that was the last time she allowed herself to be the exuberance of her. Dude, when was the last time? And some of you are like, I don't even know if it was this lifetime. Well, let's look at this lifetime. That's a little easier to access in this moment. So, how old were you? When was the last time you could be freely exuberant? Because what happens is you grow up, it's like you can't just not have problems because things won't get handled. Well, how much of that is personalities? Like, is that personality or being? Totally personalities. So, how many personalities have you instituted from the time when you were exuberantly happy for no reason? And what oftentimes happens for us when we're little kids is we'll be exuberantly happy for no reason and somebody doesn't like it, or we're too loud or too much, or somebody yells at us or somebody abuses us or something to get us to compress. And the way that we compress is using personalities. This may or may not make sense to you right now, and it doesn't really have to. In fact, how much is it your personalities that tell you that you don't understand it and that you need to, and that there is a way of understanding it, you just don't have it? That's all personality. Your being is like, oh, I get it. I get the energy. Thank you. Everything that is times a godzillion. We destroyed and created all, please. Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, povads, and beyonds. Yeah, that's a common sentiment. Never. Oh, yeah. How many personalities do you have creating that? And then our next thing, the prismatic prisons of judgment. How many prismatic prisons of judgment do you have that you're continuously in, didn't even know it because nobody does? We do now, finally. But how many of the prismatic prisons of judgment that you have been living in and suffering from create the place where you have the sense that you've never been happy, can't be happy, and you're trying to just get the right structure of judgment in order to be happy? Everything that is, times a godzillion. We destroyed and created all, please. Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, povads, and beyonds. Yo, you are so welcome. And hello from Azerbaijan many times. I feel really sad. Yeah, personality or being. And here's the thing that happens, like especially with something like that. Let's look at I feel really sad. Like I'm talking about happiness and joy, and people are acknowledging some of that. And some people, we all have whatever we have going on, right? It always lands, it lands differently for every single one of us. Okay. But number one, how many personalities do you have for making you wrong for how it lands for you today, dude? Or making you right? When in actuality, what it is just, here it is, here's you. So all the personalities creating all of that, we destroy and uncreate all that, please. Times a godzillion, right? Run, good, bad, all nine, pod, poc, shorts, boys, povads, and beyonds. Love it. Didn't even hear it, and I felt a huge shift. Awesome. Okay. So then when you look at that from that place of, I feel sad, look at that for a moment, because one of the things, see, there are ways in which we've tried to carve out what we have as our own unique reality. And one of the things that we do with personalities is we duplicate people's realities around us. Like so many of the people I know that say to me, I feel sad, and so many of the people I grew up with, like I'll explore it with them and I'm like, is it yours? Oftentimes they're like, whoa, no, I've been trying to heal people. I've been trying to make people happy by taking it away. There is that. So everywhere you're doing that, times a godzillion, right? Run, good, bad, all nine, pod, pot, shorts, boys, povads, and beyonds. And then there's the, I am sad. And there's like this superiority. One of the things a lot of us grew up with is people who are really sad, but from their point of view, it was the thing that simultaneously kept you out. It made you want to reach into their world, and in their world, it gave them some sort of value, which is usually duplicated from their parents, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So all of the personalities you have that create the rightness of sadness and the simultaneous wrongness of sadness, and the wrongness of happiness and the rightness of not being happy, we destroy and uncreate all that, please. Times a godzillion, right, wrong, good, bad, all nine, pod, poc, shorts, boys, povads, and beyonds. And when we duplicate personalities, all we got to do is go personality or being. And if it's something that you bought or duplicated, look at this for a moment. One of the things that I think we could all get a sense of is when little babies come in, they're just like, hello, hi. They don't have personalities, but a lot of times they're with families, parents who are struggling. They're sad. They've already had a life that really hasn't worked. And now they brought this baby into it. So there's stress on all kinds of levels they never imagined. And the baby was supposed to be the solution. You were supposed to be the solution. And now it's created greater levels of and like, wow. Okay. So what happens is you go from hi to, oh, what do I need to be and do that's not just this, because obviously me just being this isn't enough for people. Like, this doesn't work. I'm not making them happy. I'm not changing their life. So how many personalities are actually personalities that you duplicated and locked into your body and locked into your life? And how many personalities are you listening to this whole conversation with that try to get you to put it in a box, as though if you put it in a box, then you'll be able to understand it? But in actuality, when you put it in a box, now it can be defined and judged just like everything else in your life. Everything that is times a godzillion, we destroy and uncreate it, please. Right and wrong, good and bad, bot and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, povads, and beyonds. So I've been talking about happiness, and somebody's like, is that a personality thing? Well, I'm going to be totally accurate. It's more a sense of joy and peace and gratitude simultaneously. I say happiness because that's what people can hear. Well, it's not all people can hear. Don't get me wrong. So I'm just saying what is common for people. So, how many personalities are you using to create all the judgments of you and others you were choosing? Everything that is times a godzillion. We destroy and create it, please. Right, wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, poveds, and beyonds. Wow. So how many personalities are you using to create the judgments of you and others you were choosing? Everything that is times a godzillion. We destroy and create it all, please. Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, poveds, and beyonds. So I want to show you a slightly deeper level that some of you will really get and some of you will really reject, and totally okay. You do you, my friend. You know what's true for you. You know when it's time to change it. You know when it's time to let it change, let it go. And notice when I say that, even that, that gratitude that we started with, for me, when I acknowledge it, do you get, I don't know how it lands in your world. It's like, I can only look through my eyes. I can perceive yours to a certain degree, but what if you're not wrong for how you've been doing everything? What if you're not wrong for, like, if you start on a journey of more consciousness, you get introduced to access, for example, or all kinds of other things, a journey. But let's say you get introduced to access, and then, you start going on that journey and it's friggin' cool. And then the idea becomes at a certain point, maybe, that you're not doing it enough. You're not using the tools enough. You're not perfect enough. And then if you're anything like me, you're like, oh, well, I will get to that tomorrow, and it's kind of like when you had a term paper, and you can just feel it building up behind you. And then eventually you're just like, fuck it, I just can't. But what if you're not wrong? What if you actually know when to do it, when to use the tools, when it's appropriate for you? Everything that doesn't allow you to perceive, know, be, and receive it, will you just run and create all that, please? Times a godzillion, right? Run, good, bad, all nine, pod, poc, shorts, boys, povets, and beyonds. So, how many personalities do you have that specifically create the judgment in you of others? Everything that is times a godzillion. Ready to destroy and create it, please. Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, poveds, and beyonds. Oh, I love this. I saw you reset every time I feel my energy's low. Thank you for the contribution. You are so welcome. I did a thing called reset in November, and then another one, I think, in January. That was a very inexpensive way of being together for many days in a row. Boom, shakalaka. I have another one coming up in a few weeks called Restoring Hope. Guess one of the things we're going to be talking about, personalities. So once again, how many personalities do you have that create all the judgments of you and others? All of the attempted rightness that you never get to, as though it will undo the wrongness. But what if it's an entirely flawed structure? Everything that is, times a godzillion, we destroy and uncreate it, please. Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, povads, and beyonds. So, okay, so I'm hoping you got, okay, so I was talking about the sadness thing, sorry. Because that's one of those things, and a lot of you are like, stop talking about sadness, I was just getting happy. I know, but check this out, we don't have to avoid anything anymore. And the avoidance that we try to do of something as though, okay, I was happy, so let me avoid everything else, stop. Was that personality or being? Personality. Everything that is times a godzillion, we destroy and uncreate it, please. Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, povads, and beyonds. Okay, so the idea of the sadness thing, here we go again. Because that energy of gratitude that most of you tapped into when we started, and the yumminess that creates, and the sense of no walls and barriers, just, it's this space of just utter yumminess, and that's your being. One of the beautiful aspects of your being. And so with sadness, obviously it's not that, but what happens is I say, okay, so you're choosing sad right now. Is that personality or being? And a lot of times you'll just reject it, like, no, it's not changeable. But that is where you are shooting yourself in the foot. Now, if you don't desire to change it, if you're like, no, I'm loving it right now, no problem. But to say I can't change it is a disempowerment. See, if you don't desire to change it right now, no problem. You do you. You'll know when it's time to change it. Everything that is, and all the personalities that are fighting against that right now, we just try to uncreate it all, please. Times a godzillion, right? Wrong, good, bad, all nine, pod, poc, shorts, boys, povads, and beyonds. So if I say, hey, how many is that personality or being? And you want a total avoidance, okay, pock and pod the personalities creating the avoidance, so I can at least be present to go, hey, I'm not changing this right now. So you don't have to lie to yourself, because the only thing you can't change is the thing you have to keep hidden, the thing you have to avoid, or the thing you lie to yourself about and keep secret. Everything that is, oh, by the way, when you're doing that, is that personality or being? Personality. If it's not light, it's not your being. Times a godzillion, right? Wrong, good, bad, all nine, pod, poc, shorts, boys, povads, and beyonds. Okay, so if you look at that for a moment, and I'm going to the sad thing again, because there was at least one person who was like, well, I can't change it, I'm not changing. It's like, I'm like this, you can't make me. So how many personalities do you have in place that any change that might be fun for you, you believe or project and expect that somebody else is making you do it, so you won't choose it, so nobody is the boss of you? Because, sorry, nobody puts baby in a corner. And the funny part is, we will keep ourselves unhappy, we will keep ourselves contracted just to prove that nobody is the boss of us. So how many personalities are you using to prove that nobody is the boss of you? Everything that is times a godzillion, we destroy and uncreate it, please. Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, povads, and beyonds. When we should or sad or depressed, we've been taught it's the appropriate response. There's that, but that doesn't set you free. What I'm interested in is not just talking at you about these things and talking to you about these things. The reason I say talking at you is that's because of what most people do. They're like, let me talk at you about blah, 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 blah. What I'm interested in is presenting it to you and then showing you a way to change it. So acknowledging you were taught that that was appropriate, but how many of the things that you were choosing that were called appropriate are personalities? Everything that is times a godzillion, right? Wrong, good, bad, all nine, pock, shorts, boys, povads, and beyonds. Now, so The question, once again, personality or being, whenever you're ready to ask it. You don't have to ask it all the time. But what I suggest is if it's not light, it's not your being. If it doesn't have something like that sense of gratitude, it's not your being. And what'll happen is you'll justify this, you justify this happened to me and this person was this way and I do this and you have all these conclusions about why something is occurring. But if that conclusion doesn't create the sense of lightness, then that conclusion is just a conclusion. So when you look at that and you have a conclusion, oh, it's this, and it's this because of this. Well, if it doesn't then unwind and you don't have to do it anymore, personality or being. Everything that is times a godzillion. We just run and create it all, please. Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, povads, and beyonds. And the other thing about this is this idea of, once again, what if you're not wrong? How much of the wrongness of you has been personalities? And then one other element, I'm going to touch on this element lightly because based on the conversation and everything going on right now, this is probably going to be pretty helpful for a lot of people if you choose to use it. And if you don't, no problem, you're not wrong. Goodness, if we just had that, if we just had that in our world, if we just had that, like imagine this. Imagine there were no way in your world with anything I brought up where you thought I were trying to make you wrong or thought I secretly had a point of view that you were wrong for anything you're choosing or have chosen or not choosing. Just that there. And then also, if we acknowledge and ask for, add, be present with that space of gratitude. Wow. If we just allowed that. It's not rocket science, kids. It is truly our being, and our being is what's there always. Our personalities are what we invent so that we don't have the ease of accessing our being, because our being is so different than the structure, the judgment, the conclusions, and every element of this structured, judgmental, polarized reality. Everything that is times a godzillion. We destroy and uncreate it, please. Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, poveds, and beyonds. So I'm going to address the other thing because it's in the title. And they spelled prismatic wrong, but that's okay. Prismatic is, so the prismatic prism. So we got to personalities and we were pock and potting those. And the way it works is this, sorry, I need to say one other element as I was saying that. Like if there's something you get to where you're looking at it like somebody's making me wrong, is that personality or being? Personalities, pock and pot. Or it might be being, might be your awareness. But if somebody's making you wrong, they actually are. It won't have a heaviness. It won't have a twist to it. It won't have any angst. It'll just be like, oh, I get what's going on. They're making me wrong. Cool. Now you get lighter. What's true always makes you lighter. A lie makes you heavier. But so I asked the thing about maybe like sadness or something like that, personality or being. Pretty much if you're doing sadness, personality, because your being has the lightness of joy and gratitude. But then, so there'll be another step where you're looking at even being asked personality or being, and you're like, well, fuck that shit. Personality or being. Personalities, pock and pot that. Now, you pock and pot it if you want to. Your life is your choice. It's like you your life is your choice. In other words, you can change these things, but it will make you different. It will change your friendships. It will change your relationships. It'll change your sense of how you show up and function in the world. And in some areas, we're not willing to have that. Oh, in those areas, personality or being. Oh, personality mostly. Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, poveds, and beyonds. So you might go to a place of, I'm not willing to let this go. Well, go pock and pod the personalities And then, because an infinite being is willing to let go of anything that's a limitation. What your personalities do is they create reality as a certain thing that you have structured into existence as though it's you. But it's not you. It's a version of you that can connect into the matrix, basically, okay? That can connect into the structure of reality and polarity and judgment. And what you do when you choose to connect to that is you make yourself part of the structure of reality, polarity, and judgment. Everything that is, times a gazillion, right? Runga Battle 9, Pod Poc Shorts, Boys, Povets, and Beyonds. So, if you then notice, oh, I'm resisting this, okay, personality or being, because a being wouldn't resist anything, they would just choose yes or no. Okay, you puck and pod that, and then you get, oh, behind that is a layer of, oh, I might be too much if, like, I've been comfortable with this structure, even though it creates a lot of discomfort. Oh, I might be too much if I change this personality or being, because a being never goes, I'll be too much. How can you be too much if you're infinite? Everything that is times a gazillion, right? Wrong about all 9, Pod Poc Shorts, Boys, Povets, and Beyonds. So here's the thing is, so the prism, so I wanted to give you that. You can go, like, here you are, this is showing up, personality being Poc and Pod. Behind that is another layer. Behind that is another layer. Behind that is another layer. And if you recognize anything that is twisted, anything that is stuck, anything that is not light, is personalities. And you can Poc and Pod them. Now you're going to get to some places and spaces as you go on this journey where some of the yuckiest, ugliest stuff that has been there forever will show up again. And it'll be in that moment that you sort of probably have a moment of giving up faith on you and consciousness and this journey and Puck and Pod and access and me and blah, 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 blah. No, you're welcome. Well, first you can go personality or being. If you want to change it, you don't have to change it. Here's the beauty of it. As you let go of more personalities, you will truly not try to change people. You'll truly be in the space of they're not wrong for what they're choosing. Because so much easier. So anyway, the prismatic prisons of judgment are, I've been saying they're like prisms, Prism, in which light comes in and it's reflected and refracted, but it's not actually that. It's prism, Prizm. It's the name for something. And basically what it does, it puts you in a prison of judgmental energies that no matter where you go, you get zapped over and over and over. And it's a recipe for some of the heaviest stuff you experience. Okay. As a result of that, so I'm not going to say much more than that. Because and right now, as you desire me to explain it so you can understand it, so you can choose whether to use it or reject it. I know you're like, no, I just want to understand it so I can use it. Sorta. A lot of you there is that. But for a lot of you, there's also, I want to understand it. And what's really going on is your personalities are going, we need to understand this so we know which part of it to let in and which part of it to reject. How much of that is personalities? But how much of that is the prismatic prisons of judgment that you have embodied as though it's a necessity for you to exist in this reality from nonstop judgment that you can't figure out, you can't understand, you don't know where it came from, and you use your personalities to try to come up with a solution, but the only solution they ever come up with, because your personalities are always lying to you, and the solution they always come up with is figuring it out. It's never let's make a different choice. Everything that is times a godzillion. We destroy and uncreate it all, please. Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all 9, shorts, boys, povets, and beyonds. So what do? Well, it's like everything else. It's I know it looks like I may be drinking a glass of urine. I am not. It is a Duvel, a yummy Belgian beer. Thank you. Don't worry, it's over. It's almost 8 p.m. here. I'm okay. So what do we do with all of this? Well, okay, so one more time, anything that's not light, start with personalities or being. You can still use who does this belong to. In fact, I hope you do. We start with personalities or being, and then pock and pod the personalities. And then whatever shows up next, personality or being, like if you're resisting it or trying to prove that you're right and somebody else is wrong or whatever. See, and the thing is, if somebody else is trying to prove that you're wrong, okay, I have that all the time. But if you don't have to fight against it, now you're not stuck in their prismatic prison of judgment. You're out here. And if you recognize it in the moment because it goes from light to heavy, then you go personality or being. Oh, personalities. It's my personalities that try to defend my point of view. It's my personalities that try to get me involved in fighting against someone. And, some people are like, well, what are we blaming personalities? No, you're the one who invented them. You're the one who bought them. You're the one who's been choosing it. But we don't have to blame them, but we also don't have to blame you. And how much of the idea we have to blame anything is personalities. It's a very wonderful rabbit hole to explore, and I hope you have fun exploring it. Everything that is times a godzillion way, destroy and create it all, please. Right and wrong, good and bad, bod and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, povets, and beyond. And exactly that, there's no proving. And thank you for the gratitude. You guys are awesome. And it really helps, by the way. I know you may not think that it means anything or I see it. I don't comment on every comment, obviously, but the gratitude that you have is because I'm here talking apparently to a computer with a light on it, and yes, energetically, I am giving the world a reach around right now. Doing my best to contribute to all of you energetically, and your gratitude that you express is a wonderful acknowledgement of you receiving some part of this, right? So, and here we are, gratitude again. Gratitude's awesome. Okay, and I'm so grateful for us getting to this too. So, so we have the personalities. We talked a lot about that, and once again, I this is layer one of a very deep dive in a lot of ways. And I've actually got a call coming up. Some of you have asked, like, okay, what was the deep dive we were talking about? Well, there's Restoring Hope, 11 days for $22. That's going to be awesome. And I would love the whole world on that. Could we please? Okay, I'll take half the world. I don't care. Easy. Hello. See, I just changed my whole mind right there. And then I've got a telecall. It's a 3-part telecall, which is about getting out of the prismatic prisons of personalities. Okay. So that's coming up in, I don't know, a week or something like that, or maybe a little less than a week. And in conjunction with that, number one, I wanted to let you know the telecall is there for those of you who would like more of a deep dive. And you've done I think the Access Foundation is the prerequisite for it. But also I realized one of the things I've seen, because we've done this for months, we have been introducing this in classes, and I've done my best to tell everybody about it. It's like if you had a get out of jail free card, would you want everybody to have one? I've been printing get out of jail free cards and making it rain out there in the world. You know what I'm saying? And pock and potting the personalities do that really dynamically. So even if you don't get on the telecall, it's like I wanted you to have this in. Notice how it may seem like I've said a very similar thing many times over and over and over, but that's the nature of this, because what personalities do is personalities make it so you can't actually hear what is. Have you ever had a relationship where you thought something was going on and yet they thought something totally different was going on and neither one of you could see what was actually going on? And a third party was like, hey, this is actually going on. Like, what the fuck? Personalities. Your personalities are lying to you all the time. Okay. And your personalities are the things that you go back to as an autopilot, but we can pock and pod the autopilot now, which allows you to actually get present. So I wanted to gift this to as many of you as possible and hope that you might contribute it to as many other people as possible, because If we had a world with 50% less personalities, oh my God, what a world. Yeah, I know a lot of you are like, no, 100%. I know, me too. And the thing that I've realized in going through this is people have to choose. And here's the interesting part that I'd also like to gift you an awareness of, which is, well, for me in potting personalities, I've gotten into so much more allowance of whatever people choose. Because how many personalities do you have that tell you that what somebody chooses is all about you? How many personalities do you have that tell you when you care about somebody, they shouldn't choose anything limited, or it's something about that you need to judge in them and judge in you? Everything that is times a godzillion. Way destroy and create it, please. Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine shorts, boys, povats, and beyonds. So, um, so let's look at this for a moment also. So we have the personality or being. One of the things that may happen is, see, you're only going to ask personality or being if something isn't light. If it's not light, ask personality or being. About 90+% of the time, you're going to get personalities. Then there will be a time where it's not light, but you ask personality or being, you're like, being. Well, that's where you've misidentified and misapplied your personality, or this particular personality or set of personalities as your being. So just go, everything I've done to misidentify and misapply all of these personalities as my being. Because when you misidentify it as your being, you really are like, I'm not letting this go. This is me. Especially when you have like, I'm right and they're wrong. I know none of you do that. But there are a lot of places that other people do where they just have this sense of, oh, I'm withdrawing because you're wrong. Personality or being. Personality, except if you go, oh, that's my being, pock and pot everywhere, I misidentified and misapplied that as my being, right, wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, povets, and beyonds. And then what happens is you don't have to feel made wrong and you don't have to make other people wrong. It's fucking glorious. Now, as far as the prismatic prisons go, any of the stuck areas that you have decided are absolutely not changeable, any area that's causing judgment that you cannot seem to get out of, any area that you have made so real that you can't seem to change it and you won't let it change, ask for all the prismatic prisons of judgment creating that. Times a godzillion. Right, wrong, good, bad, all nine, pod, poc, shorts, boys, poveds, and beyonds. If you do it a few times, you'll start to get the flavor of that energy. And one of the things that I'm always trying to do is to be congruent energetically. So when I say personality and describe these different things, I'm very congruent with it. In other words, I'm tapping into the energy of it. And along with my words, it's like an energetic carrier of here's what it feels like in your world, or here's the sense of it. And so what we can do is we can start to, even if it's not cognitive in that moment, we can start to get aware of when it has the flavor of personalities, when it has the flavor of prismatic prisons of judgment. And once again, the prismatic prisons of judgment are where it's all the wrong yuck stuckiness that just seems like there's no way of changing. And just do all the prismatic prisons of judgment, pock and pod, and again pock and pod, and again pock and pod, and again pock and pod. So how many prismatic prisons of judgment are you aware of? How many are you aware of in other people's worlds right now, and also other people's worlds that are watching this? How many of those have you bought as yours, and how many personalities are you using to try to handle the fact that they're underlying so many things? Everything that is times a godzillion. Way destroy and uncreate it all, please. Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, poveds, and beyonds. Okay, so the busting out of the prismatic prisons of personality, even though that's not what they're called, that's what I called the telecall because, my telecall, I can call it what I want. That begins, I think, Saturday, something like that, for those of you that are interested. The Access Consciousness Foundation is the prerequisite. And August 31st. Thank you very much. Don't you guys love how I am posting while talking? Woo! Talk about multitasking. By the way, thank you to my amazing group, my amazing team who is just awesome. Thank you guys so much. And play with this, and also keep that thing in your mind. Just see how it is, and it might be helpful if you listen to this live again or watch it again to tap into that space of gratitude, because it's a weird thing where on your own you'll sort of do it, but you'll try to mentally do it. But what I do when I started this live was tap into all of you guys and the energy, what it actually is, because I know what it's like to try to mentally do it too, and it's somewhat less than stellar, like tapping into gratitude or choosing gratitude, right? But it's so interesting when I'm facilitating with you guys and I tap into all of your worlds and what's actually there is gratitude. Wow, is beautiful. You are beautiful. And I don't say that lightly. You just are. You fucking beautiful creature. You fucking beautiful unicorn supernova dragon. Boom, shakalaka. So, play with it. See how it shows up for you. When you remember it, Pod the Prismatic Prisons of Judgment. And let's go on a deep dive in that particular subject together on August 31st if you're interested. And if you're not, it means I'm so grateful that you were here. So grateful that you were part of this. And I hope you'll take it and use it. And Restoring Hope starts in a little short of a month. I think about 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I don't know what time it is now. Please join us for that. And if you could let everybody else know, because I realize that that's one of the things that occurred over the last several years is people gave up hope on a lot of things. And with enough of us, I think we can restore it for us and have it bleed over into our world. So, thank you. Arigato. Oitashimashite. And what else is possible, my beautiful friends? And what if you truly being you, with the willingness to be the lightness that you as a being are the gift, the change, and the possibility this world requires? See you soon, my beautiful friends. Bye-bye.